This week, on a very special episode of Wickedly Weird with Jerry and Amanda. Jerry and Amanda talk about depression and overall mental illness.
Anxiety. Eh, Yes.
How's that? Was that like a
I like
special
that.
intro?
That was good. That was good. I like
Right,
it.
so
Keep it.
so Amanda, we talked you and I last week off air about that it might be nice because you were talking about some of the struggles we talked about in private that you've encountered. And of course, I've had my struggles in the past. And we thought, you know what, we got a lot of listeners and maybe it would be cool just to not do a regular episode and just be us talking about some things that we deal with on a daily basis, just to let everybody else know that they're not alone in their struggles.
That's right. That's what we're here to do today, folks.
So it's going to be obviously a different kind of podcast as far as episode wise. We're not going to have a story worked up. We'll be back to the regular stuff on our next episode. But
Hmm.
we're just here to I don't know, let people see that maybe we're more in common. We have more in common with them than they even realize.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because everybody struggles.
So let's start, Amanda. We're going to start with you on this one. Um, you've it's something, depression and anxiety is
Hmm.
something that you've dealt with
Forever.
yeah, forever. So talk a little bit about some of the stuff you've dealt with in your past.
Oh, just like I don't know, I mean, there's lots of things. Anxiety, for instance, like when I started a new chapter in my career book. It was challenging at first. I didn't have a great manager. I didn't have the support system that I have now. So like I remember 2 or 3 summers ago it was horrible. And like, when you think that you have found like a really good friend to confide in, and then it turns out like they're not really good to confide in because what they end up doing is already taking your anxiety and making it worse. So like I had been with a certain company for X amount of years, I think like almost 10 years. And like, you sometimes I think people get bored, right?
Hmm.
And like, I definitely was getting bored. And so I made a transition into like a different kind of career path. And I didn't realize what that career path was going to entail. Now, I am not a people person, and this job is 100% a people person job. I've learned that, but it took me forever to get where I am now
Hey,
because
can
for
I
years,
intervene for a second?
yeah.
I always think it's funny when you say you're not a people person, because I would be willing to bet that most of the people listening would assume you're the life of the person or the life of the party and definitely a people person. So when you say
Okay.
you're not a people person,
So
break that down.
not a people person in terms of like so you're right. Like I love to have fun. People around you will tell you that I like to have fun. I love to party. Like there is no limit on my like well, there is now because I'm a 30 something year old person and I can't be a party animal anymore. But yes, like I definitely was. But I think maybe in terms of like, I'm not a people pleaser and I'm not like, I'm going to march the beat of my own drum regardless. And that does not work in a professional environment. Like you have to be able to move and groove to what someone may need versus what I want. So like yeah, if I know you, I'm a people person, but it takes me a little bit to warm up to you. I'm not just gonna be like, oh hey, blah blah blah, let's party and hang out. Like I won't do that because I need to know you first to get to know you before I become that people person that you end up getting to know and whatever.
Are you the
But
type of person, like if you're in line at the grocery store, do you just start talking to the person in front of you if there's
not
like,
always. No, nope, not always. And you know what happens to me is I'll make eye contact with someone and then it's over. Like happened to me actually the other day. I'm standing in line and this line was so bad, but I really needed to get some essentials. So I stood in line and I made contact with the elderly gentleman in front of me. And I learned about everything that I didn't want to learn about. And I'm not going to tell this poor gentleman like I've had a long day. My social battery is done and it's drained and I don't care. Like I'm not going to say that. And so I guess that's where you could kind of be like, well, you are a people person because you're not telling him to fuck off and it's like I don't know. I don't know. Like I try not to be, maybe I try not to be a people person, but people just people with me. That makes any sense?
It does.
Uh, yeah, like I'll just be trying to, like for instance, if I get a call and someone's trying to maybe, they need help with something and I'm trying to help them with their situation, like, and I call it like friendly mouth syndrome, where like someone will start talking to me, but they're trying to figure out what they need. So to make up dead air, they'll start talking to me about their day or, about something that maybe a family member did, or they'll talk about their dog who passed away. And like, that's actually happened to me like 3 weeks ago. And this is the stuff that gets me because this is where like the whole people person thing, you're like, oh, you would just be like, okay, what do you need? But like I couldn't help it. And I was so like into what this person was talking about their dog. Cause as you know, my dog just passed away and that was
Right.
hard. That was so hard because that dog had been with me since I was 25, maybe. So to have that comfort gone was a big thing. And I actually was on the phone a little extra with this person just to hear their story about their animal. And it was weird. Like it was nice. And that's not I'm not even like a self-help person. I'm just a I'm just a person.
Well,
So
you need to give yourself more credit than that because I know just from my past experiences with you, whenever I've ever had anything going on medically or something like that, you're always one of the first people I talk to that are asking how I'm doing and expressing concern. So you're probably a little more like that than you want to give yourself credit for.
yeah, I also think like, yeah, I'm not as hardened as I think I come off, and I try not to be. Just sometimes life throws you curveballs, which like me. So for instance, as you know, like, I have ADHD. I'm unmedicated, so that some days are a lot harder for others because what is associated with ADHD is like anxiety and depression, and maybe you might have like texture issues and noise issues. So like for me, I need to be in a quiet space when I am working, and that's including the things I write about. That includes even playing a game or even working. Because if you sat next to me, I can guarantee you I would get 1 hour of work done because I am so interested in your life and what you're about. Who cares about work when I have a buddy? And so that's the other thing. I'm impulsive too, which really, really fucking sucks. And you're always like next quick fix of being like, oh my God, like, look at I got these stickers today, isn't this great? And then tomorrow I'm over it and I need to find the next thing to keep me going. It's as I get older, I notice these things and I hate them about myself. So I try and like twist it and make it like, oh, hey, let's try and celebrate the thing that you just accomplished instead of looking and searching for better. That's not going to happen, right? That's not real. So that's, I think, some of my downfalls is I definitely too have body dysmorphia. So like I think I'm bigger than I am. I always wear really big baggy clothes. You'll never catch me in something that fits my body ever. I always wear sizes that are like sizes too big. And I'm always in a hoodie sweatshirt. Today I'm actually kind of sweating to death. So this is rare. But like normally I will not. Like I am in Matt's clothes. Like I'll wear Matt's clothes all the time. I mean, out in public it's a little different. But if I'm home, I'm in his clothes. If I'm going to the beach, and it's weird because it's like, what are you doing? So that's me. I mean, growing up, I wasn't really told I was like pretty or whatever. It was always, they didn't like, it was always like, oh, you're chubby or, oh, you'd look better as a blonde or, oh, you know what I mean? Or I wish you had blue eyes. Like it'd be weird shit like that. And I guess as a kid, you internalize that stuff. And that's horrible to do to someone. So I always tell my kids they're awesome, they're loved, they're beautiful. So they hear that. Because as a kid, I didn't hear that. So that's why I'm like, oh my God, that's so important. So important. And my son deals with ADHD. So I'm always making sure, hey, you're smart. I mean, he went from like really low C's to D's to A's and B's and like he got two C's. So like I think it's his medication helps him and having that positive reinforcement is huge. And I think growing up in the 90s, it was such a weird generation where like my mom smoked a pack a day, always had a Pepsi in her hand, never a beer, and like a perm. And like she was just very much go outside and play, go outside and play. My brother had cerebral palsy, so that's a whole nother like situation, that gets pulled into everything as a kid. You're the back burner kid, which is fine. I didn't know any different. But now that
Right.
I'm older, I'm like, oh my God, like holy shit. Like I have two children that are very able. So like to like be like, holy shit, like I missed out on this, and this because I didn't have that luxury. So it's things that I try and work in to my children's lives versus what I didn't get because depression, as you know, is horrible. Like you can't get out of bed, you don't want to eat, you don't want to socialize, you shut off from the world. And nobody does, like no one should live like that. And that's hard. Like it's hard to like deal with those things.
That's why I think it's important for people to realize if they're struggling with something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you really need to get as many hobbies and stuff as you can
Yep.
because, you know, and if I'm going to say this, and if you'd rather cut it out later, we'll cut it out. But I mean, I know, you know, when we first started doing Warning You Will Be Offended,
Yeah.
that was going really good.
Mm-hmm.
We made a change. We had to stop.
Yep. Right.
And then, you know, and you were telling me after the fact when we started the podcast up again, because it took about a year and we restarted.
Right.
And you were telling me then about how much the podcast meant to you, about, you
Yeah.
know, it was something that you were
A
doing. It was
hobby.
something that meant something to you.
Yep.
And then when it wasn't there anymore, that, I mean, it had its toll because, I mean, I'm not saying that threw you into depression. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Oh no, no.
But that was something after that time, you did have some months to where you were a little worse off.
Yep.
And I'm sure that contributed to it.
Well, right, because like I find, especially someone that lives with the anxiety, the depression, the ADHD, the sensory, the whole nine, like I need something to look forward to. So like I know on Monday night I'm going to do a podcast with you at 7. I am on the dot 7 o'clock. Now, the only times I've missed it is when I had sun poisoning on Monday. I
Two
had sun.
days ago.
Yeah, I was so burnt, like, and I was covered in mosquito bites on my toes and like
Ah,
on my actual toes, my ankles. Like I was so like gross. And actually, I have to get this looked at because I'm like getting vertigo a little bit. So like I definitely need to have an inner ear thing going on. But
well,
um,
that could be dehydrated too. So
well, yeah. So I've been drinking tons of water just, but I was so ill on Monday. Like I was exhausted. I couldn't stay awake. I just was like, this is not for me. Um, so that in itself, like it gives me a reason to do something versus sitting at home and doing whatever. I mean, you know, and I've got my kids obviously, and we hang out and we do things, and that's all well and good. But like as a mother, I'm sure other mothers can, like, even as a dad too, like, you know what I mean? You need you time, you need to decompress. And I'm sorry, but like, I don't think showers are a fucking luxury. They like, they
you
are
need to
not.
go to some of these third world countries.
Well, that's true. That's true. But like, I mean, I don't know, like like basic needs that you do, your daily ADLs, whatever you want to call it, like that should not be considered a person like a self-care thing.
I agree.
Self Yeah, self-care is like getting out on your own, going for that coffee by yourself, listening to music in the car for a drive, maybe calling that friend you haven't spoken to in a while. I think that women in particular, like not to be like, oh, women are worse than men, like no. But you know, you get that post. Some people get really bad postpartum depression. Some people suffer from other mental ailments or whatever. And I think self-care is super important. And, you know, from experience, my mom did not get a lot of self-care when I was growing up because she couldn't. And now that she's older, I'm I'm almost glad, you know what I mean, that she's doing her own thing because she didn't see that. And I saw a toll that it took on her mental health. So these are things that like I catalog in my brain and I'm like, okay, Amanda, like if you're feeling a type of way and your kids are really bothering you, and this has taken me, and I'm still learning, I need to walk away because I am just going to be a straight up asshole. I'm going to be mean to everybody. I am going to be short. And it's hard to picture me probably being really mean, but I'm an asshole. Like I just like snap and like I'm shitty and I'm like standoffish and like you can't even approach me. And like when I feel myself getting like that, I know that I need to go away because I'm being a real bitch. Like just need to take time. And, it's taken my husband a lot too, is he'll be like, you need to either eat or you need to go fuck right off because you are in a way and you're making everyone nuts. And you need to go do you. And like maybe and like he'll send me to do things too, which is nice. He'll be like, oh, why don't you go see a movie with your friend? Or why don't you get your nails done? Or here, why don't you do this or that? Because I do write, but sometimes I find it very hard when my brain is so busy. Like, I don't know how to describe this without, like, it's weird. Like when you have TV in the background and you can
Yep.
hear it. That's my brain 24 hours a day. There is always some static in there. I don't just fall asleep. Like, I have insomnia. So, like, there are some nights, like, I haven't gone to bed till 4 o'clock in the morning and I have to be up at 6. Like, that's fucking horrible. That's gotten worse as I've gotten older. And it doesn't even matter. I mean, like, yes, I'm a heavy marijuana smoker. Like, you would think that would make me tired. 9 times out of 10, I am bouncing off the walls. I am cleaning the walls. I am tearing apart my kitchen. I am moving around my bedroom. I am singing and dancing. I am having the time of my life. That's why I joke around with my husband and say I'm a vampire because I am more active at night than I am during the day. I hate being awake during the day, believe it or not. I'd much rather be asleep during the day and up all night.
It's funny when you talk about your brain going at that level because mine's the same way. And I can't tell you how
Hmm.
many times I've made a comment and Tracy would be like, where did that come from? And I'll explain the process in which to where that comment came from. And it'd be
Yep.
like 5 things all strung together that happened over the course
Hmm.
of 2 seconds,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And,
It's
and like,
in.
like we were talking today, we were riding down the road and I said, out of nowhere. Now we're down a busy road. We're not by the beach, and I say, you know, nobody ever hunts pelicans. And she's like, where the hell did that come from?
That is some shit I would say. Yep.
And I'm like, well, I saw that bird over there, and then it made me think about the other day when we were at the beach and we saw the pelican dive in the water, and then all of a sudden that made me think about, well, they must have a pretty good life because nobody ever hunts them, and that's what came out of my mouth. And that was like literally 2 seconds that I went from A to B to C, and
Hmm.
and it was just because of something random that I
Right.
saw.
Like, yeah. All right. So I saw that crane on the beach and I was talking to Matt and I was like, you think like they were just dinosaurs that didn't die off? And he was like, no. I think that's not a thing. They are not pterodactyls in real life. They are birds. Stop it. Like,
I just have people tell me, well, what you said didn't make any sense. And it doesn't because they only heard the end. But to me,
oh,
there was a whole bunch of steps leading up
but-
to it that
yep.
would have made it make sense, but they weren't privy to any of that.
Oh, yeah. Like I'll talk about not pelicans, like all that shit. It's just like, I don't know. I think, I don't know. Yeah, I get what you're saying, though. I do it all the time. I do like the whole, like, oh, well, could you imagine if T-Rexes were 2 feet tall and that's because I saw a chicken? Like, it's shit like that. It's very much all over the place. It's fun.
Let's talk about when you've really had your struggles with depression, like you said, where you go maybe weeks at a time where it's hard to get out of bed and all that. What do you find helps pull you out of it?
Nothing. Me. I have to do it. You can tell me a million times that you love me or that you're you're good, you're fine, things will get better. Well, that in my world, that doesn't no. It's the end of the world and that's happening right now. And that's what it is. And it's like I have to want to feel better. And I know like if I didn't have my kids, I don't know. Like I'm not sure if I would still be in that rut, but kids change you. They change your outlook on what you need to do. Like, yes, I have a husband. Yes, he could take care of them. But that's not the point. Like, I need to stand up and be like, hey, yeah, you can have a tough time, but yet you can still go out and you can still do things. You're fine. You know what I mean? You will be fine. Things will be fine. But like when I was younger, I wouldn't shower for days. It was disgusting. I was horrible. I've gotten better now. Definitely. I get up, I do my thing. But here's the thing. I am on a schedule and I need to stick to that schedule because if I don't, then I become so like I become a blob of just I am like sadness from inside out. That is the best way to describe me. When Joy's dragging her on the floor, that is me. if I don't have a routine, if I don't have something to look forward to, if I don't have the things that I need. And that's just like that has taken a lot to get from like joy to now anxiety. So like I mean from depression to anxiety, but like yeah,
I,
I
I,
think it's a lot of work.
I agree 100%. I tell Tracy because Tracy suffers from depression and she
Yep.
doesn't deal with it, I think, as well as what I do.
Hmm.
But I get up every morning,
Hmm.
and even if I have nothing to do, that's not saying I don't sleep in an hour extra or something on days, but even if I have nothing going on, I have a routine. I get up, I shave, I put on my deodorant, I brush my teeth in that order. I get completely dressed before I walk out of my bedroom. And then if I'm just watching TV all day,
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
You
That's my
have to do it.
routine.
And so
And
that's what I need to learn to do. Because I will rot in pajamas for like 3 or 4 days. I don't give a fuck. Like, and that's the problem. And I don't know if you deal with this, but the I don't give a fuck, it is strong with this one. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't care. You don't want to talk to me ever again? That's fine. Like, I'm gonna, and that's just weird. And that it's weird because like I do care, right? Like I really do care if someone stopped talking to me. But so like this is really weird. So someone said it to me great. She said, "Your whole life you have been in survival mode. So you don't know how to relax." She's like, "You are waiting for the next thing to happen." And that is why you can't sit still and watch TV. That is why you have to constantly be moving and grooving. I'll clean my house 3 times in a row. Doesn't matter. I'll wash the floors Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like, and it gets to a point where my husband has to be like, "You are fine. This house is fine. You need to figure it out because this isn't gonna work. Like, you are freaking out about socks on the floor, and that, I don't know if you have OCD, but I do, and so stuff like that will get me."
I don't have OCD, but at the same time, I do feel like I always need to be doing something. And it's like I've told this story before. I had one time where had some I did some yard work and I had put out mulch, but I
Mm-hmm.
was like a bag short.
Oh,
And at work, I was in a shirt tie, dress pants, dress shoes.
yep.
I went out and bought that mulch. I came home right after work, and instead of going in and changing like most people, I went out there and spread that mulch in my good clothes because I couldn't stand the thought. I can't come in and rest if I know there's something that still needs to be done.
I'm the same way. Yep. It's
And
horrible.
that's where I run into like I said, I'll get up in the morning and I'll have 1,000 things done around the house before Tracy even gets out of bed. And that's not saying she's just laying in the bed all day. It's just the way I am. After I get
Mhm.
dressed, I'll come in, I'll start cleaning up the kitchen, I'll make
Same.
breakfast. That's just what I do. And
Same. I'm the same way.
I have a
That
hard time just sitting down and
Yeah,
watching
that
TV.
my mother would be like, Sundays is the day that you clean. You do not lay in bed. You are up by 8. Here is a mop. Here is a fucking pail. Have a good time. Clean your room. Go through your clothes. Like, because we had nurses in and out of my house all the time, and my brother was very ill, my house needed to be spotless and clean. So that is one of the things that I do try and work on. Like, I'll purposely leave dishes in the sink on purpose just because I've done them all day long and I need to just take a minute. Like, enough is enough. It's time to reevaluate yourself and go do something else because obsessing over the 3 dishes in the sink is getting you fucking no place. It is chaos constantly. And I freak out about laundry too. I love to put it away. Like, I know I love to do it. I hate to put it away. Like, it's just one of those things. I have doom piles all around my house. Not that my house is dirty, but I do have doom piles that you can't see, like in my bedroom and like behind things. It's really bad. And I have doom drawers as well. And sometimes I say fuck it, grab a black trash bag and throw everything in that doom box or that doom closet or that doom pile away. I don't even give two shits because it'll stay like that for the rest of my life if I don't.
Well, on my side of things, like you said, and I wrote a lot about this in my book, but not
Hmm.
everybody has read the book. But I've talked about it in depth a lot of times on Hillbilly Horror Stories. But I went through my first probably 30 years on this earth. I couldn't have told you anything about depression. I saw my
Right.
mom go through it, but I didn't know that's what it was. But as far as me, I couldn't have been happier. And I had a hard time dealing with stress, and that would come out as much like you said a while ago, with just being a dick to everybody
Yeah.
and anger issues.
Hmm.
And that was my way of dealing
Coping.
with the stress.
Yep.
And it took a toll. Obviously, I lost my, wife.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
she got a divorce. I lost my kids and everything in that to where instead of seeing them all the time, I'm seeing them on a regular basis, lost the house.
Right.
And that's when I started going through depression.
Hmm.
And of course, that ended up leading to a failed suicide attempt.
Right.
And, but then I just told myself, you know what? I can wallow in self pity
Hmm.
for the rest of my life, or I can say, you know what? A new day starts right now.
Yeah.
This is the
It's
rest
all
of
up
my
to
life.
you. Yeah. It's all up to you and what you want to do.
And that's what I
You
did.
want to
And
handle
and
it.
then and I went to counseling, which I swore I
Yep.
would never do because I thought it was bullshit.
Right.
And then I've since realized counseling is 10 times, 100 times better than I ever thought it could be.
It
Learned
helps.
so much that I still use today.
Right. Like it's weird too, because from someone who doesn't know you, a stranger, and they look in on you and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like they don't say it like that, but you know that's what they mean. Like, what are you like, and I think mental health back when you were growing up, even when I was growing up, like it was not really a thing. Like if you had
Mhm.
ADHD, you were a fucking leper. And I know because my mom wouldn't put me on medication because she already had one sick kid. She didn't need another one. And not to put shit on her. Like that is how that generation was raised, right? Because like think about it, like her parents, if you were crazy, they stuck you in a loony bin. That was it. Away
Yeah.
you went. You were never seen or heard from again, and you died there. And
And you
that's
weren't getting any help in there.
no, they were abusing you, chaining you to walls, and that's what they were doing. And there was, I mean, I remember when I was working in the special needs community, I would have patients that were in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who would tell me about the homes they were in. And they would show me their teeth and how they were ripped out, or they would
Ugh.
show me like their fingernails and how they didn't have any and like, it is such an awakening to be like, holy shit, these people saw some shit and they went through some things and you read about it and you hear about it and you're just like like people are lucky for what they have now, even if it isn't great, it's still something and you're not being shoved in a home. And this is the things that like I think about. And it was such a like humbling, like awakening experience. I'll never forget. I was like 19 or 20 and I'm helping this poor gentleman. He's going to the bathroom. I'm helping him, getting him cleaned up. And he looked at me and he thanked me. And I was like, huh, this is like my job, right? I'm like, oh, no problem. He goes, oh, he's like, this is amazing. He's like, no one is yelling at me and screaming at me. And I'm like, who the fuck were you working with that was doing that, right? Names, numbers, like who was this, And it's just like, I think mental health has come a long way from when it was. But like even when you were growing up, I'm sure people didn't know what you know what I mean. No one knew what was you're that person's just crazy or that person's a little strange or whatever. And
Right.
then when I was growing up, it was like, oh, don't talk to so and so or don't do this with so and so because they're weird. Like it's just so many things that you look back on and you're like, holy shit! Like I am blessed to have this therapist and I am blessed to have this avenue that I can go down if I need help and all these resources where back then there wasn't that. And look at those generations and how it's affected like even my generation. Things like that I think we just didn't realize and it's been taken for granted in some circumstances.
I feel like for myself, I was able to do what a lot of people can't do, and that's handle my situation without medication. I
Yep.
tried medication, it didn't work for me. Not that it didn't work, I didn't like the side effects, that type of
Hmm.
thing.
You hear that a lot. Yep.
So instead, I just found ways to just control my anger, and it took years.
It's
And
a long
I
process.
just I learned that if I started having a negative thought, whether that be
Hmm.
suicide or whether that be um, any kind of negative thought, I learned
Right.
that I could turn that off and just replace it with a positive thought.
A glimmer. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would always have five or six things, memories, we'll say, that were like the greatest thing. Had something to do with my kids or something, an
Right. Yeah,
accomplishment.
you're looking for a
Right.
glimmer
So
of happiness.
anytime I
Yep.
needed something, I just snatched it and replaced it immediately because those
Yep.
bad thoughts will come out of nowhere for no
Yeah, it's
reason.
weird. You'll be like minding your business and all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, remember that time that you did X, Y, and Z and your dad was like, you're gross. Like it's weird stuff like that
Right.
that you're like, shit. Like what or like smells will do it to me. Smells will do it to me. Smells will trigger thoughts sometimes, which that's great. I'm like, ugh, the fuck. Like, you know what I mean? And like it'll be like smells or like sometimes like if you're driving by something like a memory, like, oh, look at that store is where I used to go with so and so and now they passed away. And then like you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
weird things
One thing
like
leads
this.
to
And you're
another.
like, yeah. And you're like, no, enough. Like that didn't like that memory happened. Yes, did it suck? Yeah, but you need to move on from that. You can have trauma and you can work through it. Like you can't live in those bad days. Sometimes I find that certain people they live in that and you can't live and wallow because when you do that, you're not going to heal.
I've, I went through most of the last 20 years learning to adjust. So I'd
Hmm.
say you don't have bad days because you do. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter what you feel like you've been able to overcome. You never, I always say you never completely heal from depression. It's
No.
you literally battle it every single day. You learn to live with it and deal with
Yeah.
it.
And it's how you choose to deal with it. And there are some people that, you know, they need to be on medication and they need that. And good thing they have that. And I
Mhm.
think it's a very strong thing to like recognize that, like, hey, like I'm really struggling. I need help. And what I'm doing isn't working, but maybe this particular medicine or this particular thing might help me. And I think that's really good that we have those resources now.
I feel like I said, I felt like I did a good job of managing it. I've had very few instances where I went into a deep depression. It would last maybe a
Mhm.
couple of days at most.
Yeah.
But the last year and a half has been a throwback. It's
Mm.
probably been my biggest struggle since 2001 when I had my suicide attempt. And
Right.
it's just like everything. And even then I look at myself and I'm like, I still don't have it near as bad as some people I know.
Oh,
But
yeah. No,
but
I
but everything, like you said earlier, it's got to do with
know
your
people that have it
reality.
bad. Yep.
My.
Hmm.
But in the last year and a half, I had, well, let's just say this. I was able to in 2020 quit working
Hmm.
my day job, which I absolutely hated, 70 hours a week, constant
Yep.
stress,
Bogus.
putting in another 40 hours a week on the podcast.
Insane. Yep.
And it was just a grind. And then eventually it just got to the point where I said, you know what? I think we can do the podcast full time. We did.
Yep.
It took off and it was great. I mean, we were making really good money. We were
Yeah. You
able
were very
to,
fortunate.
we
Yeah. Very, very
very
fortunate.
lucky because
Yep.
not very many people get that opportunity.
Nope. Nope. They don't.
For 4 years, we were able to just do the podcast,
Hmm.
travel around a little bit, but you develop a false sense of security in that
Yeah.
situation. And
Yep.
then the economy started to tank a little bit, beginning of 2023. And
Yep.
advertisers started pulling out of podcasting slowly but surely. And you end up where hey, all of a sudden our money was cut in half
Yeah. It's a
within a
problem.
couple of months. Luckily, we had some money in the bank. And then, but then during that same time, I had a heart attack,
Right.
was flatlined on the table for 2 minutes,
Right.
completely changed my outlook on life because they told me that I had a weak heart, like a
Yeah.
very weak heart.
Yep.
So I go in 4 months later and get and of course, in March, Ninja passes away, which
Yeah.
was
That's
completely
horrible.
devastating to us. I mean, that dog was everything.
Right.
There's still not a day. I mean, we're a year and a half past almost, and I still, we've got a little shrine set up in our house to Ninja.
Right. I've got two shrines. Yep. Nope. I know that
Not
feeling
not
sucks.
a day that goes by that I don't think about that dog, and not
Yeah.
very many days go by that I don't shed a tear over him.
Right. Because it's sad. It sucks.
So in 3 months, I had a heart attack,
Yep. Lost your
lost
dog.
income, lost the dog.
Yep.
So then
Oh, yeah. It's such a heavy hitter.
then we decided in June I had to have a defibrillator put in.
Yep.
And defibrillator is basically like the paddles they shock you with, but they install
Hmm.
this. And the reason they install it is because they said your heart is literally so weak. If it gets in a bad rhythm, you will drop dead and nobody can do anything about it. This is
So
a
scary. Yeah.
last resort.
Yeah.
And it's
Not
not
what you
saying
want
this
to
will
hear.
save you,
Yep.
but it's the only shot you got.
So let's do it. Yep.
So in 6 months' time, all that has went on.
Yeah.
And
And
you're
that's a
like,
lot. That's a
so now
huge
you're like,
finance.
you know,
Yeah.
you're dealing with your own mortality.
Yep.
Then
Yep.
I go in about a month later for them to check everything. They tell me, you know, my heart response rate, a refraction rate, I should say, is at 23%. And
Oh,
it's
that.
not going to get any better. Period.
Mm-mm.
And when I asked them, I said, well, I'm talking to two doctors. And I said, well, what can I do to make it better? And they said, it's not going to get better. And I said, okay, well, let me take a different avenue. What is it do I need to stay away from so I don't make it
Right.
worse? They paused and they looked at each other. And then one of them looked back to me and said, just live your life.
Ugh. Yeah.
That's not very comforting to hear.
No. And that's a lot to deal with. That's horrible to deal with.
And at this point in, we're 7 months in. I've had a heart attack. We've lost a big chunk of our income.
Right.
We've lost Ninja, and now I find out basically through the doctors, they never like to give timelines, but they said honestly, probably 5 years.
Yeah. And that's
So
not
now you
great.
got a number to go with it, and that's not to say that's what's going to happen, but you know,
Anything could happen.
you can't
Yeah. Of
you can't say you don't think about it. I mean, and that was
course
a
you
year
do.
ago.
Yeah.
So
Of course you think about it. And that's horrible to live with every day. Yeah. So you definitely have your struggles as well. And like that's hard news to
and
take
then
and
on
deal with
top of
every
that,
day.
I told you how active I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on the go from the time I got up, and then all of a sudden it's like you can't do any of that stuff anymore. You can't
Yeah.
mow your own grass. You
Mm-hmm.
can't, you know, I had zero energy where
Yeah.
I could walk around in Walmart and I was ready for a nap. And
Right.
you know, the stuff that I would regularly do, I couldn't do anymore. What would take me 45 minutes to clean out my garage now took 4 hours because I
Yeah.
had to keep stopping. So now you're dealing with not only the mortality, but you're starting to deal with I can't even be the person. The things that I enjoyed most, which was just getting up and being busy, I can't do anymore.
Yeah. That takes a lot.
And it literally drove me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't settled for that in the past year, you know, and then we moved to Florida, which is something I wanted to do, but guess what? The money's not there, so I had to start working a full-time job again, which I hadn't done in 4 years. So, you
That.
know, people have to work
Yeah.
jobs. It's not the, you know, it's not to take away from them, but I
Oh, how
almost
dare you have to work a job, Jerry?
right. But I felt like I was past working for somebody else at that point. I
Right. Because
felt
you've
like
been so used to working for yourself. Like, fuck this guy. I
and
don't
not having a regular
you.
schedule. I
Yeah.
could make my own schedule. If I wanted to go back home and visit somebody, I would have been able to just go back home. But now
Hmm.
I'm working a regular job and can't do that. And you know, and then it was hard getting up and working physically. It was hard to get up and work a job anymore because, you know, I've lost all my muscle mass in my arms and my
Yep.
legs and just walking around. And of course, I picked a job where it wasn't very physical, but I had to do a lot of walking around, a lot of standing. And
Yep.
it was tough. And you
Yeah.
know, over the last 6 months, I worked my way into where I have a lot more um I did got a lot of
Flexibility.
cardio in, so I have a
Yep.
lot more energy now than what I did. So that job actually probably helped me more
Yeah.
than I ever realized.
I just think overall, like everybody struggles, and I always stick by be nice to the person next to you, in front of you, and behind you, because you have no idea what battle they are battling, no matter what. Like, I've had people be such dicks to me, and I'm like, oh, all right, I'm just gonna give you a backstory, and I'll give them like a fake backstory, so that way I am not as harsh as they are because they're harsh for a reason. So that's why I'm like, all right, reel it in, like, take a second. I don't know if you find yourself doing this in like your situation, right? You were dealing with the public for a while. You would always have that one asshole, that one customer, that one boss, right? You kind of got to take them with a grain of salt. And so, like, dealing with what you dealt with, that's a lot. And like, I feel like if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't handle that situation great. I don't think I would even be here because that right now, like, that is my mentality. That is my, Like, I don't know how you do that, but you're also older than me. You have a lot more under your belt than me, like, whatever. But to be told all this information at once and then you have to go deal with the public, that is a lot. That's a lot to take in and deal with and live with.
I tried to look at it as because I went into furniture sales. So I was dealing with
You
five,
what?
six, seven
Yeah.
customers. I had 10, 11 people working with me every day. And I will tell you what I told them because I turned my last day was, um, this is coming out way later, so weeks later, but my
Yeah.
last day was this past Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago. And they
Right.
brought me a cake and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And, I told them they didn't know anything that was going on with me because I never told anybody. I
Right. Because
didn't
it's
I
not
didn't
something
want
that
to
you
I didn't
air.
want to be looked at as different. I didn't want to be looked at
Right.
as,
Yeah.
anything like that.
No, I understand that. Yep.
And so I was Mr. Happy Go Lucky. So I think it surprised them because
When you had
everybody
told.
was like, "Oh, we're gonna miss you so much, man. You were so fun to hang around and always cracking jokes." And
Right.
then when they gave me my cake, and I told them, I said thank you, and I said, I went through a lot in the last year and a half, and to be honest with you, you guys were a big part of the healing process without even knowing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, and that's great. You had a great group of people because you're not gonna go around like you're not gonna go around and air your dirty laundry. You're not gonna talk about your struggles because like if you're anything like me, like you don't want to be perceived as like this weak character or like this, oh, poor me, oh, this and that. Like, I feel like once you say like, hi, I have severe depression or hi, I have severe anxiety, you are already labeled as a problem or you are already labeled as like, oh, fuck, like this chick's on the team, great. And I find that the people that struggle the most are the best people because they get it. And I would much rather be around a group of depressed people than a group of fake happy people. At least the people that are depressed are with their emotions and they understand what's going on. Where I think people who are super happy or over the top happy, something's wrong. Like there's no way that you were that happy all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just been my experience with people. I've been friends with the happiest people and they're shitbags. And I have been friends with the most saddest people and they give you the world. So like, I don't know. I know that's such a weird way to look at things, but that's how I do. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Well, Amanda, this has definitely been a different type of episode than people are used to, but
I
I
hope
hope it
everyone
helps
liked it.
somebody.
Yeah, I hope everyone liked it. We're here. I do not really talk to anyone on the internet, but I might one of these days. I'm very much weird like that. I was going through like messages people have sent us and they're going back from like 2022 and I'm like, "Oh shit. That's bad. I don't really go on Messenger all that often." And when I do, it's only to talk to like one person, but I'm not on there like that looking.
Well, it's like I said, I've been lucky to be, as many bad things I feel like have happened in the last year and a half. I still know that I'm a very lucky person.
Yeah, you're very blessed, very fortunate. You have good family. You just moved to a really nice house. Like, it's nice. You have a cute little doggy and a kitty. And, like, I know it's not Ninja, but she will do.
That's the thing is people need to remember when you do start having bad thoughts, there's so many good things you probably have going on. And if
That
you
you don't even
don't
know.
feel like that,
Hmm.
then call somebody. Please don't
Yeah,
ever have that. There's a stigma that it's weak to talk to somebody about your
no,
issues, but
you need to.
you absolutely need to. And there's the crisis helpline is 988. So if you ever need to talk to somebody, you can always, even if you don't listen to the show, join the Hillbilly Horror Stories group on Facebook. There's 7,000 people in there, and that's everybody in there is designed. Basically, we're all cut from the same cloth. We all want to help each other. And if you can go in there and post that you're having an issue, I promise you, you'll have 10 people coming to you within 5 minutes because
Hmm.
there's people from all over the world in there. And there's 9 moderators that keep stuff straight. We haven't had a complaint in the group, I bet, in over a year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all the bad seeds kind of
Yeah,
filtered
they're
out.
gone.
Yeah, so yeah, because they don't tolerate that stuff. But yes. But
And
anyways,
if you ever
good.
want to contact me, you can contact me. Amanda's not big on online. I get that. So
Yeah,
her phone number
no, I'm
is, I'm just kidding.
texter.
Um,
No,
but
cut it out. You cut it out right there.
but My phone number is 502-817-0899. If you ever just want to text or talk because you're going through something, I'm more of a texter than a caller, just because sometimes I can't answer the phone. But I promise you, if you text me, I will text you back.
Yes, always.
All right, guys, that wraps up this special episode.
Yeah, be safe, be kind. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.